leave that behind and move on to another musically inclined superstar. That's right, folks. I'm talking about Jeremy Renner. The Marvel Cinematic Universe may be largely hibernating this year, but filming is already underway for the highly anticipated Hawkeye Disney Plus series in New York, which appears to be adapting Matt Fraction and David Aja's critically acclaimed comics run that began with 2016's My Life as a Weapon. Although it has not been officially announced, multiple outlets learned through set photos that Haley Steinfeld will be playing Kate Bishop, who takes on the mantle of Hawkeye herself, becomes a member of the Young Avengers, and Clint Barton's partner to boot. Now, in addition to teasing Jeremy Renner's Clint Barton wearing a hearing aid and other fan-favorite characters like Lucky the Pizza Dog, Variety also announced that Black Widow star Florence Pugh will appear in the show as Yelena Belova, and also we're going to have Vera Farmiga as Kate's mom Eleanor Bishop, Frafri as Kazi, who's likely the villain clown that renders Clint Barton deaf in the comics, Tony Dalton as Jack Duquesne, aka Hawkeye's mentor turned villain swordsman, Alakwa Cox as Echo, a deaf Native American heroine that can perfectly copy another person's movements, and Zahn McClarnon as Echo's father. So my questions to the panel are, what do you want to see from this Hawkeye series? Because much like Black Widow to a certain extent, or even the Hulk, like the Hawkeye was kind of a character that was always kind of off to the side. They didn't really put him in the limelight as much as his fellow Avengers. So what do you hope to see from him in this Disney Plus series? Preeti, let's start with you.
I really hope that they can bring the level of personality and character that Matt Fraction and David Aja brought to the comics, because I think that's really when Hawkeye went from being like a fun character, like a great character. Like what they do in those comics it's incredible. Some of the best comic writing I feel like of the last decade is in that series. And so part of what the Marvel Cinematic Universe missed out on was like just kind of introducing Hawkeye almost like too soon, because this is such a great characterization and they missed the opportunity to have that characterization like in the movies. And so getting to see that on screen and then add that to Kate Bishop, who is such a great character now, I think it's going to be like they're going to hit it out of the ballpark. Like I'm super psyched to see what they do with it, because they're clearly looking at the influences they should be looking at.
Yeah, and you'd be hard pressed to name a better Hawkeye comics run than what Fraction and Aja did, because I think it did, like you're saying, for a lot of people, redefined what we expect from this character that was kind of just always like, they even joke about it in the movies. It's like, what are you going to do with a bow and arrow compared to a literal god of thunder? But it makes him, it shows him like just kind of on his own as this street level hero in certain cases, and presents him with unique challenges, like when he has to contend with losing his hearing. And we're getting some really interesting casting here. So I want to hear, Kyle, what do you think about this new casting and what do you hope that it brings to the series?
What I think is really awesome is that they, Disney and Marvel are very secretive all the time, but as soon as there was like the set photos, which obviously they can't comment on because it's not official yet, but like Haley Steinfeld as Kate Bishop, it's like, oh yeah, that's such a good casting, and like it just completely works. And I'm really hoping that this show and all these characters and stuff like that, because WandaVision it looks like it's going to be real weird, and I think that's perfect for those characters. But like I think Clint needs just a straight down the line kind of like action drama, because he's been so kind of short shrifted in the movies for such a long time, but he had that great emotional arc in Endgame. I think people want to see more of that, because that's what you want from a Clint Barton is kind of like, he is just a guy who has all, who is really well trained and getting her to come up as the young Avenger too, I think will be really great. So I'm really stoked. I like the fact that they're treating these shows like parts of the MCU in a way that I maybe didn't think that they were going to, by putting all these other characters from other movies and stuff together. So I think all around this is going to be such a cool idea. I'm more stoked for that show than I was like last week.
Yeah, I mean, especially as we see some of the parts come into place, because when you first, like, if you're just coming out of the MCU and you just hear Hawkeye Disney Plus series, you're kind of raising an eyebrow like, what? Okay, sure. But knowing what they're basing it on and everything that we've seen so far and reading about this casting has me more and more excited for it. And you also touched on something else that I'm excited for, because while it does seem like this show is going to be a bit more self-contained as compared to something like a WandaVision, for example, it does feel like they are building towards a larger Young Avengers team, of which Kate Bishop would be a seminal part. So Dorian, I want to get your thoughts on this. Do you think that is where they're heading? And is that something you would actually like to see come to fruition in the MCU?
Oh, hell yeah. One of my biggest, not complaints, it's just something that I've been acknowledging is like either all the heroes are in their mid 30s or they're in high school. There's never been like a hero like, 20 in their mid 20s, like they're just in college or anything. Like we haven't really seen that. So I would love for them to finally like really explore that, especially on Disney Plus. And I want to echo something that Kyle said, like had not no interest, but like now that Haley Steinfeld has been like confirmed as casting, especially with you're having Florence Pugh, really like Kevin Feige said something saying like their focus really is all going to be on the TV side of things versus the movie side. And this really like echoes that. Like I was completely for when they said that Florence was joining the cast. And I know I feel like I saw that there were talks that she might pop up in the Falcon and Winter Soldier cast too. So it seems like they're just like really trying to build her up her character, make her the next Black Widow. So I'm definitely excited to see what they do next and really want that Young Avengers series. Like give me a Young Avengers Disney Plus series ASAP. They're setting it up. We're getting speed. Hopefully we get Speed and Wiccan from the WandaVision series, and then you get Ant-Man. We get Ant-Man 3 setting up little Cassie, and then we're all good. Come on now.
Don't forget a Hulkling. We got to get a Hulkling in there. That's my one request. But yeah, I think you raise a great point there in that we definitely are missing a kind of an age group that is massive fans of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. And it's why Tom Holland was such a breath of fresh air when he first appeared in Civil War, because you're like, oh, how would an actual child react to all of this nonsense happening around him? And it's really cool to filter stuff through that perspective. And now we've been through a couple different stories with Peter Parker, but it's going to be nice to get even more sort of youthful energy injected into the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Let's see, Enda McNabola in the chat says, this may be the first year without an MCU movie, the end of a streak, but I choose to see it as the beginning of a new, fresh start. And I really like that sentiment, because this does kind of feel like a new start for the MCU following Endgame. Like that was a definitive exclamation point at the end of a 10-year long sentence. And that's a lot of pressure to immediately follow up, but clearly Marvel has their next 5 to 10 years, who knows, maybe even longer, planned out for movies. So I'm excited to see where this fresh start takes us.